Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. We've just had Thanksgiving Day in America, and in the spirit of being thankful, you know what I'm thankful for? Family, women, and the Gothic vampire aesthetic. Am I right, folks? Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself because even though I said surely I'm in enough D&D campaigns, I really shouldn't be in any more. One of my D&D friends decided that he really wanted to try DMing a little bit more. Yeah, no, how can I not support a friend? And as someone who has more D&D character ideas than games to play the characters in, how could I refuse? So I'm getting started into character number 1 here. That is right, we are doing multiple characters in this video. So I have not one character design, not 2 character designs, but 3 character designs. 3 gorgeous girls that I bring to you today. The whole reason that there are 3 of them is because me and my friends were hanging out. It's like almost 2 in the morning. We spent all day chit-chatting, having a good time. We're all getting tired. And as you do, it's time to break out the dumb party tricks. The party trick in question, figuring out how many impressions and fake accents we can do. Let me tell you, a lot of these accents, not good, but what we did find out is that all 3 of us were reasonably able to do 2 very specific accents. Number 1, like a super vocal fry stereotypical Valley Girl accent, and number 2, an Eastern European, maybe even Russian accent. And in that moment, we all promised that the next opportunity we had, we would all 3 play Russian siblings in a campaign together. So the first sibling I'm drawing is Miszka. She's not the first because she's the oldest or anything, it's just I drew her first. In fact, we've all agreed that none of us will ever disclose which one of us is the oldest, middle, or youngest. It's a bit that we kind of have going where we throw off vibes, but we never really confirm. So, you know, place your bets in the comments. Not that we'll ever tell you if you're right. Miszka Solikov is, in D&D terms, our party barbarian. She's got a short fuse and will hold a grudge, but she's working on it, as well as working on some other things. She is quite far along in her recovery and sobriety journey, as she was a little bit of an addict previous to the events of the campaign. Part of moving away from Russia was to help her in her recovery. One of the 3 sisters had already moved to America, and the other 2 ended up following her to the States later down the line so that both sisters could be present to help keep Miszka accountable. And also it kept Miszka away from the people that might hurt her, or alternatively and more accurately, the people that Miszka may have hurt. Miszka, personality-wise, is very sad, very tender-hearted. She's been through a lot, she's seen a lot. When we designed each of the sisters, it just kind of played out that they happen to associate with one of the 3 primary colors, and Miszka is our blue sister. I think of her as a person that hates that she cries and gets choked up when she's angry. She's truly very tender-hearted, very selfless. She's not necessarily a leader or someone who wants to take charge, but she's always willing to take the brunt of any damage if it means keeping her sisters safe. So when we get into combat scenarios, this player is always having Miszka run to the front line and is standing between the enemies and the sisters. And if the player is watching right now, I notice you jumping in front of my girl, you reckless, selfless, silly goose. But also on that note, I do apologize for building my character a little bit too realistically and making her neither good at fighting nor good at dodging, and also making her AC be a hot garbo. Sorry, that one's on me. I've done all this talking about Miszka because she's lovely and wonderful and I love her so dearly, but let's talk a little bit about the setting of the campaign. Obviously, this is all happening on Earth because I've said America and Russia. It's late January, maybe February, winter, and the year is arbitrarily 2002. Don't ask me why the DM did this, I have no good answers for you. The only funny thing about that is that early on in the game we were making a lot of like Twilight jokes, but then we realized that since it's only 2002, the Twilight franchise doesn't actually exist yet, so our characters don't know about it, so we can't make Twilight jokes. The campaign was heavily inspired by the audio drama series Impact Winter. I've only listened to a little bit of it personally, but the premise of the audio drama is that the end of the world happens and it becomes sort of like this post-apocalyptic survival scenario, but instead of it being zombies like it usually is, this time it's vampires. For our campaign, we're not so lucky to just have one kind of opponent. We've got zombies, we've got vampires, we also have werewolves, and I wouldn't be surprised if other things started appearing as the campaign goes on. So far it's had a relatively heavy emphasis on the vampires, and you know what? I'm not gonna complain complain about that. But on that note, that is our first sister of the trio complete, Miszka. Y'all will find if you spend enough time in this corner of the internet that is my YouTube channel, all of the baddest ladies will be appearing in packs of 3s. It's a good number, okay? Technically, this one isn't my fault. There just happened to be 3 of us that wanted to design characters together, okay? Anyways, I love this moon baby. I love her with my whole heart and soul. But we do have more lore and 2 more sisters to meet, so let us move on to sister number 2. Sister 2 is Venka Solikov. Also, if anyone has a question about why they're Solikov and not Solikova, it's because they came to the States and for their visas and citizenships, they had to anglicize it, okay? It's fine. It makes sense. So, Venka is a sister associated with the color red, and I think rightfully so. She's witty, she's smart, she's fiery, she occasionally takes on a very leader role, but I think more than anyone else, she has been excellent at adapting to different situations at this timeline is throwing at her. She finds a lot of joy in the chaos and honestly seems almost happy that she doesn't have to be a pharmacist anymore. Venka came to the States first. She was there before the other sisters. I think she was seeking like independence, trying to figure out who she was and what she wanted, and she ended up doing really well and becoming a pharmacist. She has a beloved fluffy Persian cat named Mew Mew and has lived a quiet, relatively single lifestyle in her apartment with her cat. That is until her 2 sisters came barging into her door and made themselves a part of her life once more. Not that she really minded it. I think she was quite thankful for the company of her sisters, especially once the world began falling apart. Venka is our rogue. Yeah, perhaps you thought because I said pharmacist that she's the cleric. No, actually, she has a pretty extensive background in fencing and at quite high levels of mastery as well. Once she was able to get her rapier to a skilled craftsman, the silvered weapon alongside her skills have become probably some of the hands down most useful damage dealing that we have on the team. Now, you might be wondering why exactly all these ladies are dressed in ball gowns and not post-apocalyptic, sad, boring, brown practical wear. Well, that requires a bit more storytelling. So after several days of us doing our best to fortify our apartment complex, stocking up on food, materials, trying to gather survivors together, trying to create a stronghold, tragedy struck. By pure chance, by pure luck or unluck of the dice, my character was captured by a vampire lord with teleportation abilities who took me as bait to draw out the rest of the party. In particular, a certain vampire by the name of Vlad, who had been helping us, who had taken the side of the humans in a rebellion against the vampire empire. The vampire, if you will. While the whole rescue operation is its own incredibly dramatic story, what's more important is the context, the setting shift that took place at this time. So as a party, this brought us down underground to a massive dark Gothic city. Huge expanse stretching out, descending into the underground. Everything is being lit by these eerie blue-green flame lanterns. Traveling through this city, we learned that this was Transylvania, but Transylvania is not actually one city. Transylvania is a network of many underground cities linked together by tunnels, railroads, waterways, and Vlad informed us that we did not blend in and we had to immediately find some new clothing in order to fit in better. He didn't care what we were wearing, fantasy, modern, Victorian, whatever, it doesn't matter as long as we were dressing elegantly in gowns and for higher society. And boy, howdy, was that just opening up a can of worms for me and the other Pinterest girly in the party. We literally got another player to log back into their Pinterest account for the first time in a while, and I think the 4th player in our party made a completely new account. We spent far too long just excitedly discussing formal wear, putting together mood boards. It was probably the most excited that I had seen everyone get for an in-game event. You know, y'all, if you didn't already have sign, this is your sign to put your D&D characters or put your D&D players in formal wear. It is just, oh, chef's kiss, life-giving. It is incredible. It's such a gift. Truly though, this shift was a huge surprise to everyone. We had all built our characters thinking we were gonna play a post-apocalyptic survival world where we had to fight for resources and defend our base. Turns out we're playing a magical Gothic fantasy game instead. And while we were all fully prepared and all for the former, I don't think any of us are really upset at the chance to just live out the Gothic edgelord life. Now, as a party, our goals mostly revolve around reviving the old old rebellion that had previously been squashed under the thumb of the current emperor. The emperor is a savage vampire with little regard for the lives of mortals and immortals. The plot has further entangled with creatures like horrible giant half-spider druid witches. More than one of us have been pretty much completely impaled with swords on multiple separate occasions. Ancient historical and mythical figures have revealed themselves to actually have been vampires all along. And also, we visited Count Chocula at the chocolate factory in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is crazy. It's a wild story that just keeps getting wilder as it goes along. Also, just to be fair and to the credit of the DM, Count Chocula is a bit of an outlier in terms of events and characters. This Count Chocula should not be counted against the DM. But on that sort of amusing note, we are finished with our second character, Venka Solokov. I love how this one turned out. I love the upturned face, the taunting hand. She has such personality and oh, I adore it. I always feel such pressure to do people's beloved characters justice, and I feel really happy about how both Venka and Miszka ended up. But now it's time to move on to the third sister. The third and final character of this trio of ladies is Katya, Katarzyna actually, but Katya for short, because as somebody who has lived with last names that have upwards of 10 letters for her whole life, I am tired of trying to have people pronounce my name correctly. So Katya it is. And in a very, very predictable series of events, I am once again playing a cleric. Look, I love clerics. I'm always going to be biased towards cleric abilities. I love a solid support role with a wide range of utility and damage spells. I just think clerics are neat. Actually, when building Katya, I didn't just pick cleric solely out of personal bias. When Katya brought Miszka over to the States, Katya felt very bad that they had essentially just showed up and started living in Venka's apartment with very little warning and very little money to help pay rent. So in order to be able to make money to support the family as soon as possible, Katya decided to become a nurse. Currently, Katya works at a pharmaceutical company with her sister Venka, monitoring patients who decide to partake in medicine trials. And Miszka is our lab rat who partakes in medicine trials, which I think is very fitting because I don't know if in Russian it means something specifically, but in Polish, which I'm much more familiar with, Misz translates to mouse, and Miszka is like cute little mouse. And so Miszka is our cute little lab rat. Okay, wait, that kind of sounds horrible. Actually, maybe not. So as a group, we all tried to build characters that would translate relatively well into real-life, non-magical skills. Since we initially thought this was going to be a post-apocalyptic modern setting with maybe a little bit of magic powers woven in, but now that we have translated fully into this alternate Gothic fantasy setting, magic is slowly becoming an increasingly more viable option. Through various blessed silver weapons or the experiences of being bestowed abilities by someone else, or just general experiences, I guess, we are all slowly gaining magical abilities. And I will say, it's been very interesting to play a cleric and not getting my spells as fast as I normally do, and also not having a channel divinity. It's an interesting challenge. Although, imagine how overpowered channel divinity turn undead would be in this setting. I think that would just be ridiculous. I definitely feel like if I really wanted to do that, I would have to heavily discuss with the DM about how that works. So of course, with the color theory, Katya is our yellow sister, although I've definitely gone with maybe a more muted gold, champagne beige color, since she's a pretty serious and somber person. Not to go like full English lit teacher mode, but she's yellow in the sense of the way a Renaissance painting discolors over time, or like the gold leaf brushed on the halo of a painting of a saint or a martyr. And on that note, the vibe was supposed to be subtle religious undertones, conflict in the face of a total overturning of reality, but turns out in terms of religious symbolism in her character design, it's about as subtle as a bowling ball to the face. But the vibes, okay, I love her dearly. It was very specifically important to me that she had a veil that she could pull over her face so that she could obscure her identity a little bit, because she's more wary than Miszka or Venka. She's not particularly being bold when jumping into the face of danger. She just loves loves her sisters so much and would do pretty much anything to keep them alive and away from pain. She's more practical, and she would be panicked and baffled at the complete upheaval of reality as she knows it if it weren't for the dire circumstance that are requiring her to have a level head and the constant need to move on to the next task and on to the next task. You know, she's just absorbing the information and packaging it, not really having a lot of time to process it. I think the most notable event that has happened to Katya is where she nearly passed away due to a short sword being fully through her torso. Helping her recover from that was a very intense series of rolls. This was quite early in the campaign. We had next to no magical abilities at our disposal, and the entire party was very committed to succeeding through this life or death situation to save Katya. It was very dramatic, very scary. Thankfully, our party came out on the other end with very high rolls, and Vlad, our vampire buddy, was doing some heavy lifting in terms of surgery and blood work and the impossible. It was a very cinematic moment. As soon as we got out of the session, I drew it, but it is a relatively violent drawing, so I didn't record it or post it many places. I did post it on Tumblr and I did share it with my D&D group, obviously. It's just a little more personal, and also I'm not up to date on social media art policies at the moment, so you know. But on that horrifying note, here's my beloved Katya, another cleric to add to my ever-growing list of clerics that I have played and will continue to play. I'm going to keep playing clerics. You will not be able to stop me. I know I gave Katya very sacrificial lamb vibes, but she's a good sport. She makes lighthearted jokes, she's quippy, she's forging ahead, she's my very brave girl. And here we get to see all three of the sisters together as it should be. What I didn't say is that technically they were supposed to be triplets, but as a personal problem, I actually struggle a lot when it comes to drawing the same facial features over and over again. It's like the opposite of same face syndrome, where I just can't, and that's why I'll never do a webcomic. But I do think Katya does look a little bit both like Miszka and Venka, and Venka is very into personal character customization anyways, so you know, let's not be too nitpicky or stressed about this. Oh, but what is this? Something that I shared on my Instagram page a little while ago. The fourth party member, Sir Elias Wolfsbane, Slayer of Werewolves, as some bonus art for y'all. Bold of me to call it a bonus when really it was just me forgetting to record his drawing because I was too excited to get started on it. But that will do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this party full of absolute stunners. If you did, let me know by liking, commenting, subscribing, blah blah blah, whatever. It's been a very surprising campaign full of twists and turns, and if you guys like these characters, hopefully I will bring you some updated drawings someday once the horrors reach these lovely characters, just to see how that affects their physical embodiments. Or you know, perhaps we'll all get TPK'd and we'll never see them again. Hopefully not, but who knows? Not me.